We have Dr. Etta Gant here today with us, a therapist extraordinaire at Etheridge Counseling Group. Dr. Gant, Etta, thank you so much for joining us as we talk about creativity today.
Yay, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited. We talked a little bit previously about like different types of creativity. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more like specifically about writing, create
Mhm.
using creativity in that area of writing.
Mhm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe the benefits of using writing as a creative outlet?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so writing has a lot of opportunity for really intentional healing, um, releasing, reflecting, right? We might do a lot of that in our own internal world. Um, and we might talk about some or we might not talk about it at all. But writing can be particularly useful for overthinkers, for people that do spend a lot of time reflecting, thinking about, what they do right or wrong, what's going well, what's not, reflecting on their past, how it affected their present. But sometimes when we keep it all up here, it gets a little bit lost. We kind
Mhm.
of get stuck more in loops. It is like a great first step, is that awareness piece, that putting it to paper, we
Mhm.
can see it in a new way. So not only are we releasing maybe some of the, if we're feeling really overwhelmed, that's a great time to write, to just get it out so it's not consuming you so much. But then it also helps you see things in a new way. It helps to feel more integrated, more true, more authentic because it's being expressed. It's not just being stuck inside.
Not just stuck inside. Yeah, I think that's interesting that you're saying that it might be particularly helpful for overthinkers, which maybe on the surface doesn't seem like it would be because it seems like more thinking, but it's actually bringing some like mindfulness and awareness
Mm,
to the thoughts that can kind of just go a mile a minute. It's sort of a different way, maybe a more constructive way of
mhm.
processing those thoughts. What are some different, I mean, when you say writing, I'm kind of thinking like journaling, but maybe what are some different types of writing that you could
Yeah.
use that might be helpful for somebody who's an
Mhm.
overthinker or struggles with anxiety or depression or burnout or
Mhm.
whatever?
Mhm. Yeah, so there's and I we talk about it for overthinkers, but it can be a useful tool for anyone. But let's say you're okay. Journaling is one, right? So
Okay.
there's journaling is a great, that's just writing as an outlet, plain and simple. It's writing as a reflective tool. It's great for when you're feeling really overwhelmed and maybe you're even starting to get panicky, writing, getting it out so it's not consuming you so much. Um, but what's a lot harder is like integrating journaling like as a routine. I find for myself and for clients, um, when you're feeling really overwhelmed, that's when you go to it. But otherwise, it kind of doesn't get the attention.
Mm.
Um, but integrating journaling in a more routine way can be really helpful too, as just kind of like a constant release and reflection. But there's also creative writing. So there's poetry, there's writing short stories, there's writing novels, there's writing, your whole story and really viewing it as that. Like, this is my story. And telling your story, whether it's read or not, can be very healing because it's that mindfulness, it's that intentional way to really engage with your story
Mm.
and not have it either be repressed or having it consume you, like we were talking about before.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, getting really creative too with fun short stories, screenwritings, anything,
Mhm.
um, to maybe tackle some emotional issues or some pieces of yourself, but also to disconnect and get grounded in other ways, creating a world, right? A setting, the characters, all of those things that you can really pour yourself into. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's really creative writing, and then there's um, and interactive writing, and then there's like the reflective outlet form of writing.
In terms of I want to hear more about like the creative writing in a minute, but before going into that, first, because you were talking about journaling, for people who maybe have never journaled ever, I know
Mm-hmm.
I've had some clients who are like, that sounds overwhelming. I don't even know how to, like, what do you write? What are you supposed to write down? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to write. Do you have any like
Mm-hmm.
journal prompts or suggestions for somebody to start doing it, giving it a try?
Yeah. So in our blog too, I wrote out prompts for journaling for when you're feeling like really overwhelmed. So like when
Mhm.
that panic is coming, or just that like consumption and feeling super overwhelmed. And yeah, kind of starting with what's happened, putting in the sequence of events, which
Mhm.
is a great tool for recognizing triggers, right?
Mhm.
Okay, wow. Earlier today, I started by my boss kind of snapped at me this morning. I didn't even really think about that. And at the end of the day, by the time I was having a panic attack about my dog getting out from the yard, like all not recognizing how all these things add up, right? So just getting out what happened once,
Timeline, kind of getting a
yeah,
timeline in place. Yeah.
mhm, helps to increase awareness of like the precipitating events, triggers, things like that. And then just kind of writing out whatever the rushing thoughts are. Maybe you need to start with that if your racing thoughts are like really extreme, but just getting out all these overwhelming or anxious or scary thoughts. And that's that outlet piece. Just get it out.
Just dump it out.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, dump, get it out. Set yourself free. Um, and maybe you'll learn something through that, or maybe you're like, that is irrational, but it needs to come out because it's overwhelming. Sometimes I like encourage people, if they're feeling really angry or reactive or jealous or insecure, to write everything out on their phone first, right? This is just your first draft, and then they read it, they're like, oh, glad I didn't say that. That could have really burned some bridges, but it gets it out and clears the way for you to maybe communicate more effectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then if you clear things out, maybe identifying the actual emotions in that process, being able to label the emotions through writing again
Mhm.
helps you connect to the logical side of it and the emotional side of it, and helps kind of
Right.
put the pieces together a little bit too.
Mhm. I love that. And I think in the blog post that you wrote, in the article you wrote, you included like the emotion wheel with all the different words that
Yep.
you can use to describe. I think a lot of us grew up not really having a robust language to describe our emotions.
Yeah. If
And so
anything, it's I feel bad or good.
right. I feel bad, good, or fine. I feel
Yeah.
fine, but not really having like words to really articulate the nuance of what we're
Mhm.
experiencing. So I love that. I know also in the article you wrote, you talked a little bit about poetry.
Mhm.
Can you give like some examples of what that might be?
Yeah. So, yeah, what I love about poetry is it is like just pure flow, like this kind of flowing river, having like the rhythmic quality and the hidden messages and the metaphors gives you a lot of space to
Mhm.
explore your emotions or these issues in your life without there being so much pressure on it. It doesn't necessarily have to be explained. You're interpreting it in your own way. You don't have to share your poetry. You can if you want to, but it's your extremely unique and wide open way to explore that. Um, I did give a prompt for using a haiku. So, haiku probably one of the most simple
Yeah,
ways
that sounds
to,
accessible. Like I
yeah,
can't write poetry, but like maybe I could come up with a haiku.
yeah, yeah, no limericks, whatever, no
Yeah.
sonnets.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I offered an example of like using like a haiku, like almost like a Mad Lib, like ad lib, like there's
Mm.
spaces there that you get to fill out. So each one's like a haiku for emotion. So you choose maybe an emotion, or it can be more of like an emotional issue that you're dealing with, grief or loss or anger, love, sadness. Um, and yeah, so I gave a bunch of like
Okay.
little prompts. But so my emotion is blank. So my blank is blank. Um, It's like, and then I gave you either choose the name of a city, a place, or a household item,
Mm,
and then 2 descriptive adjectives, and it helps me 2 words, right? So it's you're identifying the emotion, you're giving it some sort of description, you're putting it into a metaphor, comparing it to something, either a city or an item, and then you're identifying how it serves you.
mm.
So an example is my anger is red, like Hong Kong, loud and flashing. It helps me know me. My love is pure pink, like my porch swing, light and free. It helps me know you.
Okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this later today. Oh, I love it. I love it. That makes it seem so, I mean, you've created like a template where that's super accessible for somebody who maybe be really intimidated by doing creative writing, or even
Mhm.
somebody who does creative writing and wants to kind of experiment with using it in this unique way that's helpful to your mental, emotional well-being. I love it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your examples. I'm excited for more people to kind of read and see if this is something that might be interested in doing. So again, we're talking to Dr. Etta Gant here at Thridge Counseling Group in Charleston, South Carolina. If you're interested in working with her, feel free to reach out and hopefully we can get you scheduled if that's something you're interested in doing. But definitely encourage you to head over to the blog and read more about creative outlets and writing as a creative outlet in particular.
Thank you.